Hey everyone, my name is Neil Karski and I'm the CEO of Patient Engine, a seven-figure digital marketing, lead conversion, and coaching agency for high-ticket aesthetics providers. And I would like to personally welcome you to the Aesthetics Millionaires show, where we sit down with industry entrepreneurs to talk about their personal journeys and discuss proven growth strategies. My genuine hope is that through this podcast, we can create more success stories in this industry and help more business owners scale past their competition. Enjoy the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am joined today by the one and only, the owner and CEO of Edge Cryo in North Carolina, Eric Steighner. Eric, what's going on, man? Good to see you. So let's dive right in, man. You have such a cool story, and I wanted to talk about it a little bit more. You were a scuba instructor. I'm sure you still are. You've had a promotional merchandising company, events, army, PA. I mean, there's so many different things. Surgical assistant. I mean, let's boil it down, because every single experience that you've had, professional experience, personal experience, it makes you who you are today. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think we have time to go through everything today, but maybe walk us through a little bit of your story that got you to where you are today. I know you've done a lot of cool things from in an entrepreneurial space and a professional space, but I just want to know a little bit more. Walk us through it.
Sure. Well, as usual, an amazing memory, as usual. Well, I think what led me to here is an ultimate plan, right? That overseeing of the way you walk through life, and there's always a plan for everyone. I think one of the biggest things for me is, I've always searched for a spot, that path that has led me to the things that I think I was called to do and was born in life to do. And I think all these little pieces of my life, whether it was, wild moments of traveling or sitting at home and working from a computer, I think that all these little pieces, from the military to adding other small businesses, failing businesses, ones that have done well, I think it's all just a little piece of the pie, right? A little piece of the pie where I've taken my knowledge and learnings from other people in the industry and taken that to use in my next adventure. I always tell people, and I ask people, what do you think makes an expert in their field? And personally, people say knowledge, people say experience, people say education, and those are all instrumental parts of this. But my firm belief is the ability to problem solve, right? And the only way that you learn to problem solve is learning those small problems and adapting and figuring out how to do that. And then taking those small problems, using several of those together to take care of the medium problems. And though daunting, those big problems add to our reservoir of the mosaic reservoir of expertise in our life. So, all these little things in life were just little parts of how to communicate with people, how to see past what's in front of you and see what that next, part of things are for either myself or somebody else, and learning to sell, learning to communicate. I think it's all been a part of the steps that's just led me to where I am now.
Very cool. So, we obviously have a rich history together, and at some point you're like, man, I gotta start my own aesthetics and wellness business. Let's talk about that a little bit, because the whole idea of this show and this podcast is to promote these unique stories and talk about the beginnings, especially, as well as the journey. And so let's talk about what inspired you to do that, and then we'll kind of dive into some of the early ons.
Yeah. So one of the biggest things for me, obviously I have a pretty significant medical background. So the medical side of things made sense. It was pretty straightforward for me. When I started working, side by side or for you in the world of marketing, I started to see little pieces, and I started to have conversations with people, and then, you know, being the best you can at a position or a job is understanding what you're doing, but it's also understanding the journey of the people that you're working with or for, right? Um, so when I started to get into that whole idea of learning devices, learning the industry, learning, you know, what Patient Engine does, it started to mold and piece together a bigger picture for me. So, you know, when I started having these conversations, whether it was people that were successful already, people starting off, people that have tried other marketing companies, people that, you know, haven't tried anything, you know, no matter where they came from, the same was, it was the same for everybody. They had a struggle point, they had a problem, you know, and I think one of the biggest things you taught me was it's all about their journey, right? It's all about point A, where they are now, the struggles or where they've been, whether it's a struggle or something they haven't done or tried before, and where that end goal ends up being for them, right? And it's about their pathway and it's about their journey. Well, I started to talk to more people. We brought people into Patient Engine, and then there was a success level. And I was like, man, these people who had these real struggles in life, they had this planned journey that for whatever reason, they haven't gotten to that end goal. They haven't gotten to that, you know, fixing that pain point. And then when those things started to connect for those people, I'm like, okay, so with people with the right plan, with the right play, they're really starting to make something happen. And then I'm like, also, there are some people that probably shouldn't be in this business, right? And let's be honest, right? I mean, that's the world today. Some people that can't communicate, some people that are terrible at services, some people that can't sell. And one of the factors that you bring to the table or brought to the even table just with me is it's an environment, right? It's an environment where we need to learn to be better at what we do to help support the client in the long run. So I started to see a pattern of where other people's mistakes were and where those struggle points were. So it was kind of an easy view for me. It's like, I know this is a struggle point. You know,
Let's
I know
fix
there's
it
another struggle.
or not do it.
Yeah, right. Just learn from other people's mistakes. Like it's not a hard industry to be in. It's not a hard thing to figure out. It's just finding those struggle points, not just mine, but other people's, and being better at it and learning to be successful, learning to, you know, learning to not make those same mistakes. And I was like, I can do this. Like, I got it. I see the picture. I've taken everybody else's problems. That's why communities are huge, right? That's why being on these coaching calls are huge, because you hear what the struggle points are and you're like, oh, I got that as well. You know, a lot of these things it's kind of like there's a cathartic similarity to support groups, right? Two factors. First of all, you stand up and you say, hey, my name is, and I suffer from, or hi, my name is, and I'm a, right? It's not just about creating that connection with like-minded or like situational people. It's also about saying it to yourself. I've got a problem with this. So when you say things out loud and you recognize, it becomes more present to you, right? I always tell people, denial isn't just the river in Egypt. Like, it's true, right? and I think that's huge. And once you realize it and you make an active plan to correct those behaviors of what you've been doing for so long, right? It tends to build a less blurry future for yourself.
Yeah, that's massive that you bring this up. So I think the individual ownership and responsibility of like, hey, I'm making mistakes, and that awareness, like I have problems, I need to change, otherwise I'm going to continue to be in status quo. And then I need to take corrective action to make my situation or my business better. Yeah, like you said, and you and I relate a lot too, because I've started my own med spa 4 years into helping 1,000 people, and I was like, man, like hopefully if I can help 1,000 people, I can help myself. If I can't help myself, this is going to be a problem. Yeah. So yeah, you got the blueprint. Don't make the same mistakes, and do things as methodically as possible from the beginning. That's cool. So let's talk about you. I mean, you went swinging right out of the gate. We put in a lot of ad spend for your campaign. Let's talk about some of the lessons from the beginning of starting the business, like around, marketing, sales, hiring, and all that stuff. How did you approach it? Because I think those first few months are so important, making sure that you're getting out of the gate and right out of gate gunning and just growing your business. So
yeah. So, same struggle points as, everybody probably goes through is hiring, especially if, that's just what it is. I think you've been super blessed with Ashley at your location, right? I've struggled with that, unfortunately, since I started, but, um, I kind of had to figure it out on a fast path. And the reason is because I wasn't able to work in my med spa and take phone calls and, and work for Patient Engine and alongside. And we had a couple conversations like, Eric, are you going to be able to, I'm like, I will make it happen. Right. And the reason for, that was also a push for me. Like, you can't do this. You're not going to be able to uphold, both aspects. So, with less than 30 days, into it, I'm like, this is going to be a damn good business. I need to bring somebody in. Um, I ended up hiring a 19-year-old young lady, right? And I taught her as much as I could about communication and selling, and she took off, right? And she learned the ropes, and she, I think a huge thing that helps support us as business owners, and a lot of people are afraid to hire somebody, not just because they're afraid to have somebody not do as well as them, which is always a scary part, right? Most people don't care about the business as much as the owners do, but it's also the idea of paying somebody else or getting somebody and paying wages. When you get put in a position where you kind of have to, that makes that crunch time and that moment a little bit more serious. So when I hired, the one thing I look for is, do you have a good personality and can you sell? I can teach you the other stuff. I can teach you to book an appointment. I can teach you to swipe a card. I can teach you to operate this device. That wasn't something I needed. I didn't need a plethora of information and knowledge from them. They didn't have to be a doctor or a nurse. And I understand some states, recommendations are, requirements are. Some places, if you're offering facial services, you have to hire an esthetician. Well, statistically, nurses, doctors, estheticians, like, they are not the salespeople. They did not learn. They weren't educated. They're not there to upsell.
They're there to provide care,
service, right?
And
Here you go. Here's your shot. See you later, right? High five, and you're out the door. A big communication with my employees are for you to have a job here, you have to sell. That's part of your job, right? That is part of your job is to sell. And I think a lot of times we, as business owners, one of the scariest things is thinking that we hired somebody, that was wrong. Like, that's tough for us to swallow as business owners sometimes. So when I looked at this, it was like, who's going to be the right person to sit in this seat, and who can sell, who I can help teach to sell and takes it and runs with it. When sometimes there are times or places where you can just do body sculpting per se in a room and don't need an esthetician to provide those services, right? That's great if this person could sell. I tell the estheticians, the nurses, like, your job is to provide services and sell packages, sell services, because that is your job. The commission is a bonus to people. The commission is, hey, I want to incentivize you to sell more to keep our lights on. But the real incentivization really should be to keep your job, right? And this is an extra bonus to help you survive and make more money and take care of your family. And I think a lot of times individuals may miss that portion of things. And as owners, I think we need to kind of set that line and be like, hey, this is your job to sell. By selling, it's going to make more money for you. It's going to keep the lights on and keep us in business, right? But also effectively, it assures that the client, especially packages, it assures there's an accountability. It assures they're going to show up, money in the bank. It also gets people the best results. So as a practitioner, whether you're an esthetician or a nurse or whatever it may be, you want people to get the best results. Why would you not? You're in the wrong business if you don't. So when you go into the mind frame of selling somebody, which is just technically the exchange of something of value, whatever it may be to you, for a service or product, that's the technical definition of selling. But the real truth is they should be walking them through that journey, creating that treatment plan to get them the best results. So when you sell a package to somebody, it should be for the client, not just for the business and for you to make more money. So one of the biggest things was learning that and finding the right people to communicate, people who, you're going to get bad clients, or I don't say bad clients, but clients that are difficult to deal with, and be able to kind of work through. When somebody has an objection, you got to be like, hey, this is what I do. I'm an expert in my field. I know the information. Let's help walk them through it, not just be like, oh, this person's pissed off, let's give them a refund, right? We have to be able to educate and work and support people. And I think that's been a game changer for anybody that's kind of taken that mind frame.
I love what you said about setting expectations for, hey, like, this is your job to sell. I think that's a big thing that a lot of our peers in the industry, other business owners, don't do. And I think it starts with the job description, right? Like, as a consultant or as, somebody in our practice, like, your primary responsibility is to conduct really amazing consultations, to sell the best treatment plans possible, and to get clients results. Right? If you just want somebody to get them results, then maybe that's a different role, right? Maybe that's a specific role with another job description that's like, hey, you're going to be paid the right wage to just come in, fulfill services, making sure your clients get results, check up on them. That's great. But in a reality, for most practices, most technicians, I'll call them nurses, injectors, consultants, whatever you want to call them, they're interfacing with clients the most, so they have the most touch points and the most opportunities to actually sell, and or you can call it to help them, right? So I think it starts from the job description to when you're hiring, setting the expectations, and then keeping them accountable to selling. Otherwise, you and I both know, and I talk about this a lot, especially in bigger spas and centers. There's such a disconnect between the owner, the manager, and the client-facing staff. So the owner's like, hey, agency, hey, patient engine, you're shitty. These people aren't buying. And they're like, and then we send somebody into the practice, and then the technician's not even trying to sell. So there's there's obviously a disconnect there, and in a lot of places. And I think owners are starting to hold their managers accountable. Managers are starting to hold their staff accountable as well.
Yeah. And I think this is an industry-wide issue, and it has been for a long time, right? But now when you get into these services that are being available out there, whether it's, GLP-1s or it's body sculpting or facial aesthetics, especially the high-end ones, it becomes more important for this to occur and for that understanding to be, understood by the staff. Otherwise, you're going to lose a lot. You're going to lose money. You're going to lose forward momentum. You're going to lose staff being happy in the position. So there's a big circle of life here, and it comes full swing,
Yeah. So definitely agree. So you've I'm glad we covered hiring, because that's a big thing. I without people, like you said, you're not, if you need to throw some scrubs on and get in there and do the job, you will. I know I will as well. And I would, and I've done it. You've done it. But it's like, that's not scalable. It's not sustainable. You have to find the right staff, which is obviously, this is why, as I'm opening other locations, I had to hire an HR consultant. I'm like, this is just an interviewing process. Holy crap. Just sifting through applications. Holy crap. Interviewing. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy consuming. And you really just want to find the right person that's going to not only suit the job description, but suit you and your management style and your brand as well. So every business is a little bit different, in my opinion. Let's talk about marketing a little bit. You obviously, you know the game pretty well. and you know you got to pay to play. When you started your business, you're like, hey, I got to throw in a lot of money into marketing. So maybe we can talk about the importance of, like, you know, investing, taking a little bit more risk, especially in the beginning, because I think it's critical. I think a lot of people are swimming in these comfortable waters of like, hey, I'm going to sprinkle a little money here and there and, you know, fairy dust. And then, you know, I want clients, but I also want to make 40K. So let's just be blunt and brutal and honest about expectations from marketing. We know that it works, but we also know it costs. So let's talk about that, and I just want to hear from you, because you're a successful business owner now in this industry. You coach a lot of my clients as well in sales and marketing too. So let's dive into that, because I think it's really important.
I mean, really important's probably only I mean, when you say really important, we mean really important, right? Because the truth of the matter is, you can only survive off of your current your current basis of clients, right? You can only survive so long. The people that haven't bought, you may get to them eventually, but how many messages do you need to send where they just really don't listen anymore, right? The truth of the matter is, marketing basically is the lifeblood of business growth, right? It's the bridge that connects your products or services to your potential customers, right? It's a powerful tool, right? It's huge. The truth of the matter too is marketing is kind of like, let's look at a business kind of like a plant, right? To grow and to thrive, it needs sunlight, it needs water, it needs rich soil. And in the business world, marketing is your sunlight, right? It fuels growth, it nurtures, innovation, it keeps you vibrant in an ever-changing landscape. So when we talk about marketing as a whole, like it's almost a do or die. And marketing is social media marketing, it is paid advertising, it's grassroots, it's handing out flyers, it's creating strategic partnerships, right? And there's little bits and pieces that you can get to. How far can you drive in one day, right? How many flyers can you hand out? How many business owners can you actually get in front of when you walk into the business? Probably not very many. So the biggest and easiest and best way is going to be social media marketing, right? You get to connect with a vast audience. You get to put your brand, which comes brand awareness. It becomes basically a giant billboard that's in front of people's names on their phone, that nowadays you have kids with kinks in their necks and all that because they're like this every day, right? Like, this is the platform nowadays for communication. And it used to be just networking. Now it's a powerful business tool. So when we look at, paid advertising and marketing, especially in these social media platforms, in my opinion, there is no other option for your business to go. The largest businesses, especially in this niche, because you're fighting with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of other people around you that do the same thing, businesses, maybe not that many in some cities, but the truth of the matter is they're everywhere. And the other truth of the matter is, transparency, I guess, is nobody gives a hoot in most cases about your brand, right? They don't care about the devices you have. You are in its own kind of entity. You're not different than anybody else in a corner until they come and visit you. Once they step in a door, that is your opportunity to show them that somehow, some way you're different. And that's the communication, that's transparency, that's rapport building. The devices, they can go next door and use the same devices. It's the communication and the way that you treat them. It's that VIP experience. It's that max value, that max value proposition or that you do, or the max value that you give in your packages, where you're giving a little more to help them. You give red light for free. You do a shake plate. All these little things are what actually make you different. But how is anybody supposed to know if they're not walking in your door? They see an ad, right? And what you do and your team does is they put out information and ads that really draws the attention of people. Like, it sounds simple, don't start crying, it's not simple, right? Like, it's a job. But when you get people that see it and they see it a few times and like, you know what, let me see what this is about. They bring it in the door. That is your job at the time. There's no other way to get the value of getting new people in the door without social media marketing, right? Advertising, paid advertising on Facebook and Instagram. There is no other way. Most people try like Instagram, oh, I'm going to boost this post or something. Like most of the time, your followers is a small community, even a large community. It's probably a plethora of people outside of that health and wellness industry as well, right? So they're getting ads, so you're not creating brand awareness. There's a lot of other issues in that. I mean, it's a no-brainer to me. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I think you bring up a couple important points. One, I think a lot of people think, like, even for me, like they think like, oh, I am important. I have the best brand. I have the best devices. I have the best people. Therefore, people shall come. And it doesn't work that way anymore. It just there's just a clusterfuck of information so much that people, people's brains, like we're not. I mean, it's hard for us to consume all the information that we're exposed to every single day, right? So it's like, how do you expect a human being to just like notice you if they haven't done their research or they've never even heard about you, right? So I've heard a lot of people say this. I'm glad you bring this up. It's like people don't care who you are. They care where you are. Like basically, they care that they're seeing. They're gonna start caring if they see it. If they don't see it, if they can't find you, they're not gonna find like somewhere. They're not gonna be able to find your actual practice. So I think that's a very important point. And people buy products from brands, but they don't buy services from brands. They buy services from other people. And that is super powerful. Like you said, I'm not spending 5Gs from an ad. This is not like, I recently bought this crazy sauna and cold plunge. No surprises there, right? And it was a lot of money. But I spent like 2 years researching this stuff, making decisions, looking at things, looking at brands, reading reviews. It was a long process. And their ads kept popping up on my stuff. And, this with services, it's totally different game. It's a totally different story. It's like, hey, I want to go in and I want to try this thing. Aside from trying this thing, I really just need to consult with somebody and understand, like, is this the right thing for me? Maybe it's not. Maybe it is. Who's gonna who's gonna be working on my body, right? For women especially, it's a sensitive subject. They're not just gonna undress and be like, hey, this is great, this is gonna work great, here's 5K, and this, we'll see what happens, right? There is a decision-making process. And that decision-making process happens when you build trust, relationship, are a little bit vulnerable, have a conversation with another human being, and then make a decision, right? That's so I'm glad you bring this up, and I agree with you. I think that if you own a health and wellness and aesthetics business these days, and it's not like you don't have a massive following, which most people don't, I think paid advertising is an absolute must. It's a must. It's a necessary evil, if some people put it this way. It is. So, are you going to accept? Are you going to adapt it for your practice? Or are you going to find it? I'm not fighting it myself. So let's talk about sales a little bit more, because we covered hiring, we talked about marketing. Let's talk about sales. And I know you train a lot of people in sales, and they're very receptive to it. My last guest from Effingham, Illinois, Boho Chic, they had an amazing experience with you and their team about with their training session as well. So let's break down some key things about sales as it relates to our industry and as it relates to the time we're in, and just kind of get into some best practices, because a lot of people struggle with, either the, the moral aspect of sales, or they struggle with like, the ownership of sales, and potentially saying, hey, that person didn't buy, or so let's dive into that, and I'll let you take it from here, because I think you and I are both big in sales, and I think it's absolutely critical for the vitality of a business.
Absolutely. And in most businesses, right? I mean, that's where everything stems from. If you're not selling tires, you're not going to have a tire business. Like, that's where it comes from, you know? Um, so one of the biggest things I always present to people is, just like I said earlier, we don't need to sell people things, right? These people have to make the decision to buy. I'm sure, if I were to take a poll on people that love to be sold, it would probably be a very, very small amount. Most people don't like the feeling of being sold. They like to feel like they're in the position that they have the power to decide that they're purchasing. Um, so in most respects, there's usually three things that I always tell people that somebody's looking for. They want to know, does this work? Will it work for me? And then how much does it cost? Typically, especially in this industry, if we can build value in those first two things, that third thing, the pricing objection, usually seems a lot softer, a lot lower to people, because they see the value in the first two. I give an example. You have a soccer mom, couple kids comes in. Kids are 12 and 10. And she talks about her lower abdominal area, wanting to work on that. And let's say that we find out that individual this is something that they notice consistently, right? I usually ask people, so is this something that you see once a year when you go on vacation? Is it every few months we try on a certain outfit? Or is it something that you possibly, like, maybe even see every single day getting out of the shower? Like, what does that look like for you? Let's be honest. Most people are going to tell you every single day. When we have something that we feel uncomfortable with, especially with our body, and it's easily visible in the mirror, most people see it every day. Or fine lines and wrinkles on their face, and they just feel like they're losing it, and just want to kind of get back to time. These people usually will probably have felt it for quite a while. So I always ask, hey, how often do we see this? And I always ask, how long have you felt this way? Most people, especially if they had a couple other kids, it's probably since at least their last kid, right? So these people at this time are now feeling less than the best version of themselves than they have in a while. That's a huge thing. The problem isn't that they have fine lines and wrinkles and they feel like they're looking older. The problem isn't really that they have the lower belly fat and it bothers them. It's that they see it all the time. They feel it. They feel less than the best version of themselves for a long period of time.
Let me stop you for a second and ask a follow-up question, because I think a lot of people struggle with this. So I'll let you cover it in a little bit more detail. How do you dig into the pain without causing too much of a bloodbath, so to speak?
That's fair. So every person that walks in usually has this, like, you're not going to sell me wall up, right? You're not going to happen today. So what I usually do right off the beginning, introduce yourself. Use your first name, introduce yourself, tell them your title at the business. It shows that you're somebody who's going to be trusted and you understand what you're doing. And then I usually walk them through. I say, hey, this is what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to talk about, let's just use body sculpting, for instance. We're going to talk about, a little bit about your history, a little bit about, your journey, where you're at now, where you've been. Ultimately, we'll talk about your goals and set realistic expectations together. Then we'll go a little bit about the device, do the service, and at the end, we'll talk about some package options. So right there, multiple things happen. You've used your first name to start to connect with them. You've you've said to them what your title is, so you could be trusted. Then you start to give them the idea and the knowledge of what we're going to talk about. So that person's like, Oh, these are simple answers. I got these, right? We're not like, bah, here's this crazy question and we're going to sneak it into you, right? We give them the idea to start to make them feel comfortable right off the bat with what you're going to talk about. And then at the end, if you're okay with it, we'll talk about package options. So right now, you've given them the feeling that you're not going to pressure them into the sale. And they're like, yes, yes, Eric, you may talk to me about pricing at the end, right? Like they feel like they're in the buying power. So when we start to talk about their journey, and we ask them, Miss Smith, please introduce me to who you are. Well, I'm this, and I got a couple kids, and I do this, and I work out sometimes, and I drink, try and eat healthy, but I've got this mom area I got to work on. They've already kind of given you a tool to start to really kind of center around. And if they don't, you can ask, okay, appreciate sharing that. So just out of curiosity, can you walk me through and maybe even point at the areas of concern for you? Right? They're not problem areas. We don't need to make this a big thing. They're areas of concern. They're simple little fixes. Something of concern isn't a big, crazy problem for me right now. Why is that important? Because the truth of the matter is we want this journey to be soft and easy for them. We want the decision-making process. We want this process of fat reduction or reducing fine lines or wrinkles or the GLP-1 journey. We want it to be a soft, easy journey, no problem. So it's an area of concern, not necessarily a problem area. So we're softening the journey right off the bat. So when they share that with you, it's usually like, okay, well, thank you for sharing that with me. If I can ask, just to better understand the situation, is this something that like you notice, once a year? Is it something you notice? So I go for the long journey once a year. Is this something you notice maybe a few times a year with certain outfits every couple of months? Middle kind of journey. And then I go or is it something that you may, see getting out of the shower, daily in the mirror? Like, what does that look like for you? So I go from the long, the small, the middle to the every day. But then I also follow up, well, just an example, like, what does that look like? Most of the time, they're going to tell you they see it all every day. So that soft conversation, and I know it sounds crazy, but these awkward pauses that I do on purpose, right? They're purposeful. I'm taking my time to understand, hear you, and I'm taking this time to get the right question to ask you so I can better understand what it looks like, right? We're talking to them as a friend. We're talking to them as somebody who I need to understand what's going on in your life so I can even make sure that this is even a right service for you. So that kind of opens up the conversation of how often or when, and then how long you've been kind of suffering from it. And that's what we build on ultimately in this journey, is that right there, the deeper problems. Because you talk to somebody and they talk about pain in their neck, right? I talk to licensed massage therapists sometimes, and they're like, yeah, I say if somebody has pain in their shoulder or neck, like, is that really the problem? I mean, surface level, sure. But the truth is, we should be asking ideas and
What is
questions.
preventing them?
Right.
What is that preventing them from doing?
Yeah. Does this affect your sleeping? Oh, it does. Okay. So you wake up and you're hurting in the morning. Okay. So what do you do for a living? Oh, I work in a warehouse. Do you feel like the pain in your neck and shoulder is also affecting you at work? Yeah, absolutely. So that sounds like you're really tired during the day and get home. You said you have 2 kids that are young. Like when you get home, are you able to get down and play with the kids and spend more time? Or are you just focused on settling in and checking out and sit on the couch because you hurt and going to bed early? Man. So the problem isn't the pain in this, right? It's about so much more. And in our expertise and the niches that we've spent, most of us, not me specifically, but most people in this, have spent a long time building their business, right? So when you have these conversations, or staff are having these conversations, we need to be the experts. Our job is to problem solve with these individuals, help them see that road to that end goal. So when we dig in, most of the time, there's only a handful of real problems that are associated with most of these situations, and we should be able to guide them on understanding, because once again, when they say it out loud, it becomes more real to them. And most of the time, you don't have a family, oh, I'd love to lose 10 pounds, and your mom or your best friend's like, oh yeah, how long have you felt that? Like, it's an awkward question for most people, closest family and friends, but in this position, we can ask that because of this pathway of this conversation.
Yeah. And I think the moral of the story here the the best, most effective salespeople, if you want to call it that, or helpers, are the ones who listen most intently and ask the best questions. Because, like you were saying, you ask a question and you ask a follow-up question, which leads to another question. It's just a series of questions. Because if you can't get to know them and their journey, then you're probably not also selling them authentically. You're not selling them something that they truly, truly need, right?
For sure. And most of the time, the questions and that long path and where it leads to, it's almost the same with every single person. Their story, their journey is going to be a little different, but ultimately it's to find out where they are now, where they've been, and then help them see that goal, help them see the success of that goal with you guys and the services that you're offering.
Powerful. Yeah, what do you find? Let's get into just a little bit more fun stuff with sales. I know you do a ton of sessions with our clients. What do you find that some of the biggest pain points with teams in our industry that are struggling with?
I think that some of the biggest factors are people want to get through sessions, and I understand time is money, right? But I firmly believe that a sale is typically done within the first 7 to 10 minutes. So that good consultation that leads into the rest of things, I think is really important. And sometimes, a lot of people forget that and they just go to, hey, what could bring you in today? Okay, we'll take care of you. Here's a device. So I think they're missing that piece. I also think for whatever reason, people are kind of almost pricing wrong. Like, I feel like an initial single price should be a little bit higher than anything else so that when you go to a package, they see more value in a package, right? It gives you also room to wiggle a little bit. And what I mean by wiggle is a buy today offer, right? I do a buy today offer personally, an extra discount that I've worked into my numbers to help incentivize people to buy today. But it also gives me an extra tool, right? Like, my staff is like, they're like, nah, I need to think about it. Need to speak to my spouse, right? Which is a common objection. I need to speak to my spouse. I need to think about her. I need to see how I feel. That's typical. But if you have little tools in your pocket, like the buy today, my staff goes, well, Miss Smith, I hear you. I understand you need to speak to your spouse of the financial stuff. Just out of curiosity, if I can get it approved by ownership to extend this buy today offer maybe tomorrow by noon, do you think that would give you enough time to speak to your spouse this evening and come to an educated decision about it? And then we can connect tomorrow. Do you think that would work for you? Like, I just did them a favor, right? I've extended this offer to give them a little more time, right? And that's, I never say just allow somebody to walk out. That's like a last ditch effort. And I have a couple other tools, in that space. But, a lot of the times, people allow objections to come at the end of the selling process rather than handling them up front. I always talk to people when they talk about their kids. I always say, hey, a significant other? And they're like, yeah, but so just out of curiosity, like, do they know that you're here today, or is this a little surprise for them as well? Right? Like, is this going to be, and they're like, oh no, he doesn't know, or he knows. Okay. So what does he think about it? Sometimes, people are like, well, he thinks it's a bunch of BS. So don't waste your money. Right. And I always tell people then, it's like, hey, we have two types of people that come into our service. We have people that have the full support of their spouse. We have individuals that don't have any support. Now, in most situations, having the full support is best, but you know what the similarity is between full support and no support? Coming through our location with the services we provide and the support, both sides have been super successful through their journey. So that makes people think no matter what the decision is that I make in regards to support or no support, if I do this, I'm going to have success, right? It is our job to help people understand that journey. And if we build it right and we find out, if somebody says no significant other, how the heck are they going to tell you they need to speak to their spouse at the end of it, right? There's ways to kind of work through conversations. And if we can handle all the objections that we all know way too well at the very beginning through conversation, then it's an easier fight at the end if they bring it up again. Right? We have a plan of attack by the end of the year to be able to help support them through this.
Honey, if you pay cash, he's not gonna know.
That's right. We've got Terry, we've got Affirm, we've got Care Credit. Oh, Care Credit. I use it for my dog. Well, you can use it here as well.
Eric, what's next for Edge Cryo for your brand? Where would you like to take this thing?
Oh man. Like anybody else, even though, I've done very, very well with it. I'm still even scared about starting a new location, right? I'm like anybody else. You should be. It keeps you safe. I've been looking at a couple other places as well for things. I've also thought of a bigger picture, in this. We'll see. I'm not 100% yet. I definitely would like to do a few more locations. We'll see. We'll see what actually happens. I've got a few things in my pocket right now that I'm working on and building up. So we'll see how it all works out, but I'm excited for the road ahead for sure.
What advice would you give to somebody in our industry who is either starting? Well, let's do two audiences. One first starting in an existing business who really wants to grow. I know there's a lot we can talk about here.
I'll try and make it as simple as possible. For somebody that's just starting, do it right the first time in the beginning, right? Find people like myself, like you, ask the right questions. The truth of the matter is, if you start off as right as you can from the very beginning, especially with a mentor or not, it'll save you a lot of extra time and money later. Just like aesthetics, I tell people, like, if you do it now rather than 2 years from now, you have less mess to clean up later, right? So I think if you do it right, make it happen, put things together, find out what it's going to cost you or how it's going to put together. And a lot of times it doesn't have to be a lot. Find the right program, CRM system to help house the information that's going to have a complete system, which aren't expensive. Have the right, marketing team. Find the right instrumentations that are going to give the best results. You don't have to pay a fortune for these things, right? There's people in this industry, right? There's people in this industry that do this. There's people that have done this for a long time. If you do it right from the beginning and don't baby step your way into it.
Find people you can trust too.
For sure. I think it goes a long ways. What
about existing business owners who are kind of struggling to find themselves or find the way? I get a lot of people who they're kind of stuck. They're kind of stuck, and I think it starts within them, right? But
it always starts within them,
right?
There's no other way that it starts. So you're either hurting financially, you're doing okay, and you can't grow. It's you that's limiting yourself. Always. There's nothing else. Unless you have no money at all, then there's obviously another thing. But in the same sense, I have, even in my worst times in life, at my brokest moments in life, I have figured out a way to make more money. I've gone out and just done it to put myself in a better position for later. And my comeback was a lot quicker than it would have come. I think there's the difference between successful people and not successful people is being scared of failing. Because I'll tell you, I've had several businesses over years that have failed, right? And now I look at it as an attack write-off, but we'll go through that. I think it starts with your own mental blocks. Even people that I've talked to for years, hundreds of people, they're like, well, the money, or it's a lot of money, or I don't know, or I can't do things, I'm like, if you don't know, you're always going to be in the same place, right? If you don't know how it's going to work, it's because you're in the same place. If you won't put your best foot forward and go for it, it's because of you in most situations, right? So I think that figuring out who you are, figuring out where you want to be, and building that plan and going for it to get you there is probably the easiest way.
Yeah, that's very sound advice. Let's get into some fun questions. You know that they're coming. Uh, I like this question. I think it's totally off the beaten path and vulnerability type of question. But what is a bad habit that you'd like to fix about yourself?
Bad habit. I expect people to be on the same level as me. Not saying I'm better than anybody, but just I'm a quick study. I'm a quick learner. And I have a bad habit of expecting that from somebody else. So I think I need to be more patient with individuals around me. I love to teach. I love to learn. And it's come easier for me. And I think that I need to be more understanding and more patient with others around me, knowing that they may not collect. And truth of the matter, it happens with my wife. Like, I'm like, your memory is horrible. And she's like, Eric, like, no, your memory is amazing. And yours is even better than mine. But, that's something I know I can do better, is for sure. Patience is a virtue, right?
Yes, it is. Unfortunately. Cool. A couple more questions. What is your favorite non-luxury brand that you perceive as luxury to you?
Non-luxury brand that I perceive as
It can be
luxury to
anything.
me.
It can be anything, like clothing, shoes, cars, clothes, watches. Anything. Could be even a restaurant. I guess, I'll give you an example of mine. So mine is like, me, I'm a giant, and it's really hard to find clothing for my body type because I have a swimmer body type. So I have this, the shirt I'm wearing today is a brand called Leaf Nelson. They sell it on Amazon, and it's probably like, $60 to $70 for a shirt. And it's not a luxury brand, but it's made out of like amazing, like Turkish cotton. For some reason, it ended up on Amazon, and it fits me amazing. And I'm like, man, this is like, to me, I treat it as a luxury brand because it has all the different things, but it doesn't cost me $300 for a t-shirt.
Weirdly enough, it's probably the products, the company that my wife now works for. It's called Ada Cosmetics. It's actually in the hotel business. They do have some luxury brands specifically, but most of them are for non-luxury hotels, shampoos, conditioners, body wash, and all that stuff.
Are you stacking up? Are you stocking up on the cosmetics in your garage?
But the reason is, it's because it's like the only hotel amenities brand that is like Green Star or Green Leaf, which means like all sustainable processes, all sustainable products. It's off the nasties list. It's a clean one. It's sold in, it's one of the top amenities in the world, a German brand. And you know what? That might be my answer. And that's the most recent journey for my wife. But like, it's because of their story. It's because it's sustainable. They have now this sustainable option for filling bottles. It takes away from labor. Like, I think that's, and it's not considered luxury, but I definitely think it is because of its story.
Amazing. Eric, if people want to connect with you or network with you, where can people find you? What's the easiest way to get in touch with you for other entrepreneurs or anybody who wants to connect?
Yeah. Can I use Patient Engine email?
You can use whatever emails you want. You got like 17, so I don't know.
Maybe 24
now. I know. Check the.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So Eric, ERIC, at patientengine.co. That's where, luckily enough, because I'm still coaching and working with Neil, that he's allowed me to still have that email. So thank you. I think that's probably the easiest. It'll definitely always point me back to this communication and podcast as well. So that'll be helpful just for communication purposes. But yeah, I mean, that's probably the easiest. Once again, it's eric@patientengine.co. And I'd be happy to have a conversation with people, help support people for sure.
Yeah. And edgecry.com is your brand as well. Obviously, you can check out Eric there. But Eric, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Coming on. Love you, man.
Love you too. Appreciate it.